For those of you who are new here, my name is Sky. I'm the founder of Soccer Parenting. Our mission at Soccer Parenting is inspiring players by empowering parents. And absolutely, that's what we're doing today, giving you some guidance, some information, some education. We're empowering you with that information so that you can make sure that your youth goalkeeper feels inspired by their experiences. So I'm really living out our mission today. I am a former goalkeeper myself, so this week has been especially fun, diving into fun conversations with people, different interviews that we've done, pre-recorded stuff. It's been so much fun. So really, really excited to build out this conversation. And today we are here with Kevin Hartman. Kevin played 17 years in the MLS. He was named to the MLS starting 11 last year, maybe the year before. Legendary goalkeeper, so many awards, greatest or most saves, most starts, most minutes. I don't know, the most of everything. Really, he's so much fun to talk to, and I'm really grateful to call him a friend. And more than that, Kevin, I'm super grateful that you found the time to be here today. So thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks, Sky. I'm really thankful to get the opportunity to talk about the developmental side of things, as you were kind of talking about my playing career. Now that I'm coaching with the first team, it's one of the things that I miss the most is getting to kind of talk about the introductory process of becoming a goalkeeper and some of the nuances of what that challenge looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. So Kevin's coaching as a goalkeeper coach with the LA Galaxy now, where he played for many years, where they won a championship or 12. How many did you win when you were with the Galaxy?
We won 2002, 2005.
Awesome. Love it. And they're in the playoff run right now. So I know his time is really limited. And so super appreciate your time, Kev. We always try to tie in one of our interviews to one of our soccer parenting value statements, and definitely soccer knowledge like layers right into this. So at Soccer Parenting, one of our value statements is we foster our children's love of soccer by seeking to educate ourselves about the rules, nuances, and intricacies of the game. Obviously, that's exactly what we're doing today. So, really appreciate you all being here and kind of living out our mission and our values through this conversation. So Kevin mentioned that he is coaching now in the MLS. When Kevin and I most recently kind of crossed paths and reignited our connection and our friendship, because we did know each other way back in the day at magnet camps. He doesn't believe me, but he was a camper at one of my camps. And I always say that I used to coach him, but anyway, he's not even going to comment on that.
The stories that you tell me are always kind of, were you coaching me or were you avoiding me because I was so annoying? It was one of the two.
Pain in the butt punk kid that I was at the camp. But no, that's not true. That's not true. There was one, but I'm just assuming that was you, but it probably wasn't. Anyway, we reignited our friendship as we were both getting our national goalkeeper license and diving into some education. Just as Kevin was getting ready to retire from playing, he took the national goalkeeper license along with me. So from that point, it's been exciting conversations just about development for goalkeepers and the youth game. And I love the fact that this is something you continue to be really passionate about, Kevin, because it's so important that we have your voice in this game. Something I know I've said to you and I want to say here is that your experiences, like 17 years worth of games and playing, is such a vast amount of knowledge. And even for all the background I have in coaching in the game, because you went on to play and I went on to coach in goalkeeping, even with all of my vast coaching experience, it is nothing compared to the hands-on experiences that you've had. And I've learned so much from you just in our conversations over the years. So I'm really excited. Thank you for being here.
Sky asked me to come on and talk about just kind of the basics of goalkeeping. And I've always come from a background of, looking at really the technical side of things. Just hit the present right there. Yeah. And then just hit perfect. I'm sorry. So you can go ahead and scroll to the second page. And for me, you talk about the components of goalkeeping. And I've always been somebody, whether it was working in camps or, doing individual training, where the technical side of the game is really important. And really the technical side of the game is the toolkit that you use. So all the basic skills, whether it's catching or diving, that you're using so that you can execute kind of what's necessary in game. The tactical side would be when you're using those and how you can be most effective within the game. And so, you know, whether that's experiences that you get from coaches that are talking to you about it, or whether it's things that you kind of learn on your own, the tactics of the game become pretty important, especially as you get to, you know, 14, 15, 16 years of age, where that really kind of becomes even more of an important part of the game. And then the other two sides would just be the physical side of the game and then the mental side of the game. And I'll try to go through these four components so that we can kind of, you know, just give you a general overview of what goalkeeping looks like. Sky, you can go ahead and go to the next page there. We'll talk a little bit about the technical side. And so these are kind of the four things that I look at when we're talking about the technical side of the game. You're looking at the handling, and the handling, you know, for me, really becomes any time that you're using your hand to interact with the ball. So that could be catching, but it could also be deflecting or boxing the ball. The collapsing and the diving would just be any time that you need to lay your body down laterally. So maybe it's outside of your body frame on a shot that you need to kind of, you know, extend your range just a little bit further. 1v1 scenarios could be anything from a breakaway where you're kind of being, you're being challenged from, you know, 15, 20, 30 yards out, or if the ball kind of pops free and it's just you and an opponent kind of facing each other down. And as you know, maybe Sky wasn't around, but when the rule changes happened, you know, back in the early 90s,
I was still playing then.
We got stuck with the fact that on back passes, we weren't allowed to pick them up anymore. So obviously, you know, the game has really demands more and more out of goalkeepers at this point, you know, in terms of what their passing ability is and the decisions that they make with the ball, either in their hand or at their feet.
Yeah, Kevin, when Phil was on,
yeah.
he was saying that 68% of the interactions that the Philadelphia Union goalkeepers had with the ball were with their feet.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting how much that we depend on our goalkeeper to build out of the back. I mean, you know, not to get too deep into it, but if you're the goalkeeper and you're in the center of the field, then you have access to both sides of the field equally. And you'll notice that a lot of teams, especially at the top level, when they pass it wide, they're playing into traps. The opponent will press, and so the ball usually will come back to the middle so that you really kind of have access to both sides. So the goalkeeper is going to have the ball at their feet. They're going to have to make really smart decisions to ball so that you have the ability to get out and get forward and get onto the offensive side of things. In terms of the handling aspects, so here's just kind of the three things that I jotted down really quickly. Overhand catch would be any catch that you're dealing with a ball that has arrived at chest level or just above chest level. And the hand shape would they used to talk about like a W. If you see my screen, you can kind of see that. And what we've really done is we've kind of rotated a little bit so that we have the ability to get our index fingers a little bit more behind the ball. And so that's probably one of the big transitions that's happened within goalkeeper technique, maybe over the last couple of decades, is really just a slight adjustment so that rather than just having your thumbs behind the ball, you also have the thumbs and the index fingers a little bit more to stop the velocity of a powerful shot. Anything that's below your chest or, you know, just right around sternum level, we're looking to kind of turn our hands over and it's more of a scoop. Usually the ball will come into some type of interaction with the palms of your gloves, and then you're able to kind of tuck the ball away. So those are the two types of catches, really. Even at ground level, you would use some type of an underhand catch. And then the deflections. And so sometimes whether the ball's, you know, you're not confident with your ability to catch it, or it's maybe too powerful, maybe it's too wide, and all you can really do is get some fingertips to it, or you want to kind of push it away from danger, then we have different types of deflection. So those are really kind of the handling aspects of the game that we're really kind of talking about for youth goalkeepers and all the way through. So how
Sorry.
you can, that's okay, that's perfect. And how you can use it, or your goalkeeper can use it effectively. All those video examples that we just used there of Kasper Schmeichel, the ball was kind of directly at him, or he used quick little footwork to get his body in and around it so that he was able to catch effectively. That's not always going to be the case. And more often than not, you'll see the goalkeeper kind of collapsing or diving to the ball. And the difference between these two these two words, the collapse would be, anything where you're really not having to propel yourself laterally. Really, the collapse is almost a fall. And then the dive would be, a step in the direction of the shot. And then there's a legitimate push off where they're traveling laterally through the air. Okay,
Peter
and so
Schmeichel was my favorite goalkeeper too, Kevin. I had a poster of him that was like from Soccer America magazine. That was like the centerfold of a Soccer America magazine on my ceiling growing up. So
yeah, just an unbelievable presence. And one of the things that we'll talk about as we can kind of continue through this is just, the same challenges that goalkeeping presents can really create unbelievable characters. And I always felt like Peter Schmeichel, whether it was the leadership, the passion that he had for the game, he was just somebody that I was in awe of, not just because of his ability to keep the ball out of the goal individually, but how he was able to get small groups and his team to really help, keep the ball out of the back of the goal. And that for me was always something that I'll never forget. Anyway, the 1v1 scenarios, and one of the things Peter Schmeichel was really the first one to really bring in is there's a handball technique called the star save. And it's really where you kind of have your arms as wide as you possibly can have them, and your legs are spread, and you're almost trying to put your face and your chest through the ball. And he was one of the ones that really kind of brought blocking to the forefront. So it's actually a great transition. The 1v1 scenarios is where you're kind of coming down the line. And one of the next slide that you'll get to, Sky, you can go ahead and change it. It talks a little bit about angle play. And you can see from this example, the goalkeeper is positioned, approximately 6 yards off his line. And you can see the shooter's about 20 yards off their line. And it just talks about how, or it just shows, I'm sorry, it doesn't talk about anything. That's me yapping. But you can see that as the goalkeeper gets a little bit closer to the shooter, they're able to intersect the path of the shot a little bit more effectively. So it's in breakaways, one of the things you'll see very often is that the goalkeeper will really do their best to get in the vicinity of the shooter to really not give the opponent very much of the goal to look at. And sometimes they've given up maybe the capacity to catch the ball, but they've really eliminated some things. And on vice versa, on shots from distance, then you'll sometimes see that the goalkeeper will sit closer to the line, and then in that case they would have more time to be able to use their footwork to get them to the save. So it's always kind of a constant balance. You'll notice that if you have a line through the middle of the goal that goes directly to the ball, usually the goalkeeper is on that line, and then there'll be somewhat of an ebb and flow along that line so that they can figure out if maybe the shooter gets their head down, they come down the line a little bit, or if they have to worry about getting chipped, then they'll kind of settle a little bit more deeply. So that's what we're talking about when we talk about angle play. So in this next group of examples, you'll really see Kasper Schmeichel doing a pretty good job of blocking, and then also making decisions about when he's going to come and challenge the opponent.
Kevin, that last one, there's a clip of you like that. I'm going to post it on social tomorrow. I don't know what game it was. I feel like you might have been playing at Dallas. It's like you're like in 4 different places making crazy saves. I know you might, well, maybe you don't remember that.
There's definitely a save where we were playing against Real Madrid. That there's one save and a second save. And I don't know, every time it pops up, I feel really honored to have gotten to play against Real Madrid. But then I was actually really excited that somebody got that clip that I could actually move like that.
I hear you. I'm curious also, when you're going through this, are you imagining, like, even on that angle play side, like I'm like imagining myself in the goal, like when you're saying the shooter takes a touch, like, are you feeling that as you're expressing this like I am?
Yeah, I was thinking about this conversation on the way home, and all I could think about was like, I could imagine you introducing me and talking about my playing days, and even now I don't think I'll ever love anything as much as I love that, but um when I see him getting smashed in the face, I was like, did I really love that much? And I love the feeling of the ball coming off my chest and
Yeah.
off my
Well,
shin,
I'll
whatever the
tell the
case
story
may be.
quickly and just as a digression, and then we'll jump back into these slides. But when we were at the National Goalkeeper License, Kevin was in and demonstrating, and my friend Jason Grubb and I were playing and acting as his defenders. And Grubber put in a nice video for Goalkeeper Week. You can find that on our social channels. But there was this 1v1 ping, and Kevin got nailed in the head, like nailed. And everyone went, oh, and Grubber and I looked at each other with this look of, we're kind of jealous. Like, maybe it was your chest, but there's that mentality of goalkeeping and goalkeepers. So yeah, no, it would be
Gotta be
nice to
tough.
be able to move like this again. I'll move on.
All right. This is the final one. And so we talked the difference between passing and clearing, right? So passing is just accurate distribution, probably under 30 yards. For some of the younger goalkeepers, it might only be 15 yards, but it's something that you can hit repeatedly and you feel confident with it. Clearing the ball is any time that you're asking the goalkeeper to kind of strike the ball over a longer distance. Maybe the accuracy isn't quite the same amount that you would have been able to do when you're passing the ball, but sometimes, especially at the youth ages where there's not as much of a capacity to build out of the back, these clearances really kind of give you a little bit of breathing room, and hopefully you're just really kind of stealing some space on the fields. Here's some clearances from Casper here. So the tactical side of it is direct goal defense would be anytime that the ball is goal dangerous. So shot on goal, header on goal, in any type of a breakaway where it's going to be a shot, that would be our direct goal defense. Our indirect goal defense would be a through pass that's maybe behind the defense, and the goalkeeper maybe needs to come out and sweep the ball away, or if it's inside the 18, maybe they would run out and pick it up. Or if there's a cross into the box. So any type of lofted service or service along the ground that maybe comes from a wide space and it's looking to be redirected into the goal, then we would consider that our indirect goal defense. Distribution is your passing and your clearing. I would say that, passing would be, you could include a throw in there. And then for the clearances, that would be if you're asking the goalkeeper to punt the ball or to volley it over longer distance. And finally, game management would just be, if you're winning a game, are you trying to slow things down so that the time ticks a little bit? Or are you trying to speed things up because you're losing a game? Is there somebody injured on the field and you need to get the ball out of bounds? It's really just general game awareness, and really trying to be an on-field presence for that, and trying to make sure that you're really helping shape what things look like from a tactical perspective. The only one that I'm really going to go too much into is just this indirect goal defense. There's some examples here. Really, these aren't this is no longer Casper Schmeichel saving direct shots on goal. This is Casper Schmeichel saving something before it becomes a shot on goal. And you can kind of see the activity level and how much his experience comes into play with this.
Yeah, I love it. I'll move here just a second. Just want to encourage people, if you do have questions, pop them in the Q&A. I saw somebody had raised their hand. There's a question there, but pop them in the Q&A and I will proceed to the video now.
If you want to go back to that next one, I can show it to you really quickly. This would just be kind of with the 17. So this would be older goalkeepers within any program. All of this stuff can be, all these different tactics, techniques, etc., can really be broken down into smaller smaller bites, right? And for me, I just think like as you get to the final phase of this thing, you can kind of see what you're expected to know, and the thing can vary by age. What are the expectations when you're 12? Like when you're 12, you're probably, you know, just understanding center of goal to the ball, you know, in terms of angle play, and it continues to kind of grow. Each one of these really, I think, kind of shows just a little bit about how you know, maybe how dynamic things can get at the older age groups. And as you kind of move on, you'll see there's angle play within the direct goal defense, but then down in game management, you're talking about varying the game tempo. You're talking about, you know, what what language are you going to use? Like, are you saying away, or are you saying clear it? You know, just all of these things make for more efficiency, like at the top levels in the older age groups. Since this has kind of come up within this within the slide, I usually am most apt to care about the techniques of goalkeepers and shaping that up until like their 15th birthday. And then once your 15th birthday comes around, you should have if you've started kind of early, then you should have a pretty good grasp of how to do things technically. And then it really becomes more about the tactics and experiences and understanding what scenario is kind of popping up and what the solution is and how best to deal with it from an individual perspective. But then also, you know, can you get some help from teammates and stuff, and how effective are you at kind of communicating those solutions? You can bypass that one. Thanks, Guy. So the last two big categories we have was the physical side: coordination, agility, mobility, power, strength, and speed. Coordination and agility and mobility, a lot of that is footwork. Coordination is like your ability to get different parts of your body kind of working together, and agility and quickness. Power would be your ability to kind of translate your strength into power and how it's used on field. All those are really important. I'm a big believer that the goalkeeper needs to be one of the best athletes on the team, because they're faced with so many, you know, dynamic problems, you know, and you know, if they have more speed, if they have more power, then it just really gives them a better ability to kind of help come up with the solution. The final, I think it's the final slide that I kind of have within that is the mental side of it, and it's really kind of a catch-all to, you know, all these different things that you know, from my perspective, are kind of the tangible, are maybe the things that are most difficult to come up with, you know, values on. I think from a life perspective, one of the things that, you know, I always talk about is what's sleep look like? What does nutrition look like? You know, at the older levels, you start talking about, like, are the kids going out, you know, drinking, or do they have anything like that going on? Like those can be seen as, you know, either negatives, or, you know, if this kid's got his life together and he's getting enough sleep, and you can tell that, you know, they're hydrating well, and, you know, they're cognizant of, you know, how much they're working out, when's enough, when's not enough. I think those are all really important things. From a strategic thinking perspective, you know, we're talking about, you know, the decisions you make on the field. When we looked at Kasper Schmeichel, we looked at, you know, when he's picking the ball up at the top of the box, it's really easy to get those things wrong. And so I think like decision making and strategic thinking is definitely a part of the mental side of it. I know that Sky has a growth mindset. You know, every time I talk to her, she's like, what's the step to, you know, to get to the next thing? And, you know, and she believes that she can affect, you know, what her future looks like. And if you have a growth mindset like that, you know, you're a step above a lot of maybe goalkeepers out there, because there's a lot of goalkeepers out there that, you know, they don't understand that the hard work that they put into on the field can really affect what they're going to look like down the road. From a personality perspective, you know, I'm probably more of an extrovert, you know, than most people on the field. Like, I'm willing to kind of talk and be kind of brash and, you know, in my teammates' face if things aren't going the way that I want it to go, or, I'm also willing to kind of accept criticism, and I feel like that the personality of a goalkeeper is a big part of it, and that leaves the final one, which would be just fight, flight, or freeze. When things get tough, like, what's the reaction? Are you gonna stand up? Are you gonna run from it? Or are you just gonna stand there like a deer in the headlight? And so, these are all kind of things that I'm looking at in terms of the four categories which I mentioned originally. And if you go to the last page, you just kind of see what this ideal goalkeeper looks, and I think we talk a lot about, well, how tall does our goalkeeper have to be? And there's been a lot of goalkeepers that aren't 6'3" that have had a lot of success. And more often than not, if they weren't 6'3", then they were really quick and they had, a 35-inch vertical jump, and they found ways to kind of solve the problems of the game. And that with that efficiency, I think it comes back to the fact that there really has to be something special about this player. The other thing I would say is that you have to be a student of the game, and whether you're picking up a technique, whether you're inventing a new technique, when you're coming up with a solution, whether you're trying to figure out new ways that you can talk somebody that doesn't really want to do the job for you, whether you're trying to convince them or whether you're trying to come up with a way to kind of lift up a teammate who's maybe not confident. All of these things are it's constant learning, and it's evolving as a player. And then the final thing would be trying to find somebody that can come up with big saves at the right moment, can deal with playing in front of a crowd and in playoff type soccer. So those would be the three things for me in terms of having an ideal goalkeeper, because all of those things are things that you can evolve into, and I'm not the kind of guy who would say, oh, we need a 6'3" keeper, and if they're not 6'3", then there's no way forward for that player. I've always been a big believer that everybody has a chance, and we just need to give them the right environment to grow in and go from there. So that's kind of what I put together for Goalkeeper 101. Sky, I'm sure you have a ton of other things, and I'd rather have it be more interactive for the last portion, but that's kind of what I put together in terms of just an overview of what I'm thinking about from a goalkeeping perspective.
Thank you so much for your preparation there. That is really appreciated, just putting the time in to try to give us this back knowledge. Colby's asking a good question, or Colby, sorry, is when did you start playing? Because I think that your story of your developmental journey is one that I'd love to share, and then we'll dive into some specifics, because I definitely have some questions for you here I want to dive into more. But can you briefly tell that story?
Yeah, so I think this is actually funny, because when I first started playing soccer, I was always played up front, and I think whatever goalkeeper must have gotten hurt, and so I was like, well, I'll go back and do it. And I would think that if I was terrible at it, like the first time I ever did it, I don't know if I would have stuck with it. So I must have been okay, and I think I made a couple saves, and so then I was like, well, making a save is really similar to scoring a goal. But my team was so bad, like I wasn't going to score 5 goals, but I could make 5 saves. And so
How old were you again?
I must have been 12 or 13 at this point. And the other thing I really liked about goalkeeping is I grew up in Southwestern Virginia, and there wasn't a lot of soccer going on. And it's kind of football, baseball type scenario that made soccer kind of like a second tier sport from some perspectives. And so I didn't have a lot of people that I was playing with. My team, my high school team, was a co-ed team. Some of the best players on my team were female. So I think that helped shape my perspective of the female game and how much I respect it. But I also, I could do goalkeeping on my own. I could go out and I could find a wall and I could get the repetition in. And that's a big thing. I would imagine that every professional soccer player has a story about how they got their repetition, whether it was kicking a ball off of a wall, whether it was, playing, with their brothers and sisters, whatever the case may be. But I got that repetition from, there was a wall that I smashed the ball up against, and then there was a tree in the side yard, and I could throw the ball up against the tree, and it would always give me erratic bounces, and then that would allow me to kind of work on my dives. So yeah, I think I was 12 or 13, and I knew from a really early age that that's all I wanted to do with my life.
Yeah, love it, love it. And I think it's important to know that you can start later and still develop these qualities with the right mindset. There are a few things that I want to dive into that I personally, just from my coaching, think are so important. Would love you to chime in about. I want to talk about the importance of set position, of being in a set position, and actually kind of walk through for parents what that actually looks like, as much as we can try to explain it, since it's so foundational to being able to make a save.
Yeah, so for me, a set position would be any position in which you feel like you're ready to go. And so for me, it's feet would be about shoulder width apart. I feel like as your feet get wider and wider, it's almost like you have to hop and get them ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess one of the best ways I could describe it is if you're playing basketball and you're in the middle of defending somebody, and you're on the ground and you're moving laterally, that to me is kind of what I think of when I think of a set position. But the reality is somebody's going to hit a shot towards you, and you need to use that time most efficiently. And so I would think your feet would want to be on the ground. I would think you would want to be, loose and prepared. I don't think you want to be too rigid, because if you're too rigid, maybe you can't jump. Maybe you're not able to move your feet effectively. So I think there's some fluidity within it. But for me, a set position is always going to be whatever makes you feel like you're really ready to go. And you can video yourself and you can say, okay, the shot's taken. Do you go from whatever your position into some other position that looks more like a set position? But usually it's my hands are in front of me. They're somewhere neutral. I usually keep my hands kind of just in front of me, because if my feet are down by my sides, I feel like they end up coming to here anyway, so that I can catch here or I can catch lower. So I usually have my hands kind of in front of me. My feet are about shoulder width apart. I'm leaning forward, and I'm just ready to move. I guess that's what a set position, ready position would look like for me.
Yeah. And I find myself in my coaching for my youth team, or just with working with kids, like to say, oh, well, they're not set. So, to be really clear, the essentialness of that, being ready to make a save when the ball is being struck, and not being jumping, not being running, not being, just making sure that the goalkeeper is. And I think in the youth game, that's something that parents can also be really aware of. And on the sideline, if you're sitting there with your phone and taking video, you can actually use it as a tool, if your child is open to it, to show them, a good learning moment.
Yeah. And I would say, for me, as soon as somebody kind of enters the offensive third of the field, it should look a lot different than standing there.
Yeah.
I mean, there's somebody about to shoot this ball towards goal, and you need to use that time as effectively as possible. And so it does kind of, it looks like you're ready to play kind of defense in front of your goal. And,
Mm-hmm.
and so there should be a noticeable difference. I mean, even at our level, one of the things I talk a lot about is the game's 90 minutes. And so if you just make a save and then you come upright again, you're never really working on the strength that's necessary to stay engaged for, there's going to be 45 seconds, a minute and a half, where you're really working your way back and forth across the field, prepared for a shot on one side, prepared for a shot on the other. It gets to the end line, you're ready for a cross, it gets dropped back, all of a sudden it gets crossed, you come out and punch it, they still have the ball. If you really just, okay, here comes the shot, I'm ready, and then you make your movement, you're never really building up, the conditioning that I think it takes to really be able to do that for an extended period of time.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time just to focus on that, because I think in the youth game, that's something that's really, really
Yeah,
clear.
for sure.
So the other thing I wanted to have a brief conversation with is, the thought of positions changing. And again, this is bringing this into the youth game with the size of the player. So for instance, like a taller player, their position off the line actually might be closer to the line because they're taller and they have more span of being able to save the ball. But sometimes with the youth goalkeepers I work with, I'm like, are they going to score if they shoot it high? And the answer is yes, because they're little. So what's the difference? Like, then let's go out further to stop them from being able to score left or right. They're going to score above you almost regardless. So let's cut the angle off more. Any nuance of situations like that you can kind of think of for a youth goalkeeper, maybe difference in positioning for corner kicks, those types of things.
I've been really hopeful with the fact that I think leagues and teams have been dealing more effectively with putting players in goals that are a little bit more the correct size, right?
Yeah.
So if you're in an area where you get the opportunity to play on U12 goals, it's certainly going to be a lot more of an experience that you'll find joy in. If you're a 10-year-old goalkeeper playing in a full-size goal, I think Sky's right. I mean, I think that what you need to do is you need to kind of say, okay, well, when people are shooting from distance, we need to make sure that our defenders are shutting these players down so that they're not able to get maybe the same loft on the service or the shot. But beyond that, yeah, you can come down the line and you can make things. I guess the angle play that we showed really only had the wide parts of the goal, and it's actually three-dimensional in terms of if you take the ball from the ground level and you take another line and you draw that line towards the crossbar, that would really be the other dimension that you kind of talk about when you're talking about angles. Yeah. I'm fortunate enough to work with really tall guys. It makes me feel short, but
you feel short. Oh,
I do feel short. Yeah.
Okay, well, we've got lots of questions. I want to chime in because we just have a few more minutes here. So let's get through some of these. Any suggestions? You might not. That's okay. Because there's not a lot. Good online resources to learn goalkeeper drills to run at practice. Maybe there's another way we can answer this for a coach too.
I think one of the things that you really have to determine, because there is a lot of stuff on YouTube, there's stuff on Instagram, there's stuff. I mean, there's goalkeeper coaches out there that provide maybe non-contextual exercises, right? And what you really need to do is you need to figure out what it is that you want to work on. So if you want to work on catching, like I said, a lot of it is just repetition. There's repetition directly at the goalkeeper. There's repetition where the goalkeeper needs to kind of move their feet and get their body behind the ball. There's repetition of, catching the ball when you're falling, catching the ball when it's already along the ground. I think some of the things that you would do in a sports performance type class, some of the agility, the footwork movement, it's just there's so many things that you can do, really. I mean, get yourself some cones, get your body in and out of shape, work on getting your feet behind the ball. I think the most difficult thing is having small numbers. So maybe it's only yourself and another person and talking about, how to work on a scenario, like how do we work on corner kicks where there's 4 people running past you and you have to have good spatial awareness. And you can get creative with that. So once you determine what it is that you want to work on, go look through YouTube and find some examples of what would help you with that. So if it's catching that you want to work on, that's you can find some stuff on there. But I'll go to the next question. But yeah, I think a lot of it just has to do with determine on what you need to improve on, and then punching that maybe into YouTube and getting some ideas.
Absolutely. Our one of our partners for this week, Keeper Stop, who's offering a 10% discount on gear all week long. They've got a pretty robust YouTube channel with a lot of stuff on it as well. Also, if you're coaching the team and you're looking to work with a goalkeeper, incorporating them into the team training using a goal as much as possible will be really helpful as well. It doesn't always have to be, functional off to the side.
I would say this, excuse me, Scott. I would say that, a lot of the field player exercises have real value to the goalkeeper. So it's almost like just building it up and, hey, like for the first couple shots, make sure you're hitting at the goalkeeper, warm them up, and then it just kind of grows from there. Mm-hmm. One of the warnings that I would offer is you can be a goalkeeper who has no idea how to play the game of soccer. You can just do obstacle courses off to the side. And so really you need to challenge yourself in a team environment more often than not. And I always tell our goalkeepers, like, I'm not going to be the one, maybe I can offer my opinion, but I won't be the one that is going to make the decision on the weekend. So once we're done with the warm up, once we're done working with the stuff we're working on, you have to go over there and you have to convince the head coach that you can do the job, right? And so I would say don't get over concerned about what goes on in some of the goalkeeper specific things, and really try to figure out how you can fit into the team and into the game as best as possible.
Yeah, love it. So this is a question from Brad talking about his son, Alec, who's 9. My goalkeeper, Alec, age 9, took a cleat to the face in practice and broke his nose going after a 1-versus-1. He's recovering and can't wait to get back in goal. How do I, as a parent, address his apprehension to be fearless as he was before the injury? He would say he isn't scared, but he is human. And then Brad chimed back in, by the way, he did save the goal, by the way. He would want you to know that.
That's perfect. I think I think everybody, I think, Sky, when we were down in Florida, one of the statements is like, the goalkeepers are kind of like freaks of nature, because you're really willing to kind of stand at a ridiculously close distance to somebody that's smashing the ball at you. And I think that just comes once again with time, right? Like if you would have an injury, then you would kind of get yourself back just a little bit at a time. You don't necessarily have to go from, that such a horrific collision to get right back into that, and you can kind of build it back up. And I think that you can probably do things from, a little bit further distances away, and then they can get closer, and you can say, hey, like over the next 3 months, we're going to get you back into a position where you're really comfortable with this again, and just be realistic about what you're asking from a young goalkeeper, or from any goalkeeper, because there is a natural inclination to kind of shy away from things, and really over time you're able to get to a point where you are fearless again. But I'm happy to hear that he made the save and that he learned the value of using your body to make saves.
There you go, Alex. Sometimes you have to. I coach at that level, and I often see kids using incorrect technique for breakaways just because they haven't learned the proper movements yet. The body's not quite coordinated for that yet. So I would also encourage you to find somebody that can actually, a trainer of some sort, that can teach you the proper technique for making a breakaway save safely. Okay. So biggest challenges that or I guess we can go back to this. Sylvia, I feel like we kind of answered your question, and then we will be wrapping up here shortly. Suggesting warm-up activities for the goalkeeper at the youth level. Kevin, could you maybe morph that just for a second and say what's important for you, or what do you think is important for the youth goalkeeper when it comes to warming up for a game?
Well, I'm a big fan of the goalkeeper, first of all, being athletically warmed up. Yeah. And so there's a lot of times where for the first portion of training, I'll allow our goalkeepers to go with the performance coaches who just do an athletic warm-up, general warm-up, which has them moving around. There's some type of mobility / stretching, flexibility, moving around again, and really just getting the body ready to compete in a way that it's going to be asked to. And then I would say, I really want to go into a game feeling confident, and so for me, it's similar things that I would do during training, getting my hands warm, getting comfortable with the ground a little bit, seeing the ball coming at me from different distances. Sometimes it's 6 to 8 yards, sometimes somebody shooting from, 18 to 25 yards. If I'm talking about indirect goal prevention, then there's going to be a cross coming in, so I'd like to get my body sideways, and I'd like to kind of see what that looks like. And so for me, my goalkeeper warm up is always just going to be seeing the ball from different distances, different angles, and then just making sure that I'm comfortable from a physical perspective, but then also just touching the ball a little bit and making sure that I go into it with a good mindset.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And then final question, and as we wrap up, is any advice to assist the youth goalkeepers so that they can improve? And there's a couple questions about this. We definitely had this yesterday as well, but improve aggressiveness and confidence.
So I think it's really difficult to, give somebody confidence. We always kind of talk about that, and the inherent difficulties with that. But I think you want to have a positive attitude, and you want to be convinced of the fact that a goalkeeper can be a difference maker. And I think if you go into goalkeeping with the thought that every goal could be preventable, and it might not be preventable by you, it might be preventable by your team, and maybe I could have, gotten a little bit more out of this guy, but to go about it in a way so that you have this active imagination and you're always trying to solve, and that there's other people out there going through the same difficulties that you are. I think that you can remain engaged for a longer period of time. You can come up with these solutions. You can find positivity in a lot of different ways. But if you're patient, you stay organized, then I really do believe that you can come up with and solve different types of scenarios, and solutions will come your way. I'm not sure I got all.
I think that's a perfect way to wrap up, because with all of that experience comes the confidence, like from making mistakes and learning from those mistakes, or from having a success and celebrating that. But also as a goalkeeper, we have to be so reflective of everything. Like, I was successful because, and then we build confidence from that, because, or I made a mistake, but I learned this, and that's where we can build confidence as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a real problem with making things based off of an event, like, oh, the goal went in. And we can become more like, okay, well, what was the process? Like, did I get in the right angle? What did I just didn't dive far enough? Well, maybe I need to get more powerful, or, well, maybe the guy just hit the perfect shot. And then you're like, okay, well, the next thing is, it's like my identity, right? So you go from events and think some of those things are going to be able to be dealt with or not, but you have the right processes, and then it just becomes kind of a part of who you are. And it's like, I can do better next time, or whatever the case might be. But there's this level of self-efficacy that you're just trying to make sure that you continue to grow in as you get a little bit older within the game.
Yeah. Kevin, thank you so much for your time today. This is such a fantastic, opportunity for learning for parents, for goalkeepers. I know there was some questions here. Ashley, I have a goalkeeper trainer that I can recommend in Bend, so reach out to me on Twitter. I see your message here. And for those of you who asked questions that we didn't get to, I'd encourage you to also listen to the webinar we did yesterday with Megan and Stu, because we touched on a number of those scenarios that you were asking about there. Kevin, you're right in the middle of playoffs. We so appreciate your time. We wish you the best of luck as you all take on your crosstown rivals. I'm sure that's quite a derby.
Yeah, it'll be a good one. LAFC tomorrow night. It should be on TV. So
yeah,
just check it out if you get a chance.
We'll be sure to watch and catch it. And really, thank you so much for just sharing your knowledge with us and with the soccer parenting community during Goalkeeper Week. We really, really appreciate it. So thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you guys very much. I appreciate it. We'll see you next time.
All right, take care.